Okay, let's jump right into this explainer because today we're uncovering a massive hidden paradox right at the heart of the Indian economy. If you just glance at high-level economic data, things might seem perfectly normal, maybe even like a tremendous success story. But when you peel back the layers and look at where real people are actually spending their days, a shocking imbalance reveals itself. Today, we are going to explore how a country can completely transform what it produces while utterly failing to transform how its people work.
To make sense of this, here is our roadmap. We'll meet the three economic sectors, break down the biscuit rule of GDP, trace the global economic blueprint, reveal India's sector paradox, and finally unpack the underemployment problem.
Section 1. Meet the three sectors.
Before we can spot the paradox, we really need to understand the playing field. Absolutely everything happening around us can be neatly categorized into three fundamental pillars. We start with the primary sector. This is the absolute bedrock of the economy. It forms the base for all other products by directly exploiting natural resources. Think about cultivating cotton, for instance. You're completely relying on rainfall, sunshine, and the local climate. Whether it's agriculture, dairy, fishing, or mining, if it comes directly from the earth or from biological processes, it belongs right here in the primary sector. Next up is the secondary, or industrial sector. Now, this is where the magic of transformation happens. Natural products don't usually stay in their natural state forever, right? In this sector, raw materials get changed into other forms through manufacturing. Think about turning raw earth into bricks to build houses, spinning cotton into yarn, or turning sugarcane into sugar. These are all your classic secondary sector activities.
And finally, we have the tertiary, or service sector. Now this one is a whole different ballgame. This sector doesn't produce physical, tangible goods that you can hold in your hand. Instead, it provides essential support. It aids the development of those first two sectors. Goods need to be transported by trucks, stored in godowns, and financed by banks. Whether it's a postal worker delivering mail, a doctor providing care, or a software engineer coding away, these activities generate services, not physical goods.
It's almost like a giant puzzle where different economic activities slot perfectly into these three distinct pillars, and they are highly interdependent. Without the primary sector, the secondary has no raw materials to work with. And without the tertiary sector, the goods produced by the first two have absolutely no way of reaching the wider market.
Section 2. The biscuit rule of GDP.
So, now that we have our three sectors mapped out, how do we actually measure how much they produce in a given year? I mean, think about it. Is it even possible to add up the value of millions of vastly different items without the math just turning into complete nonsense? You can't just say an economy produced 10 cars, 500 nails, and 3 tons of wheat and expect anyone to understand the total size of that economy. Adding those random numbers up gives you a totally meaningless figure. Well, economists solve this puzzle by using the monetary value of goods rather than the actual physical numbers. This gives us the gross domestic product, or GDP. It's basically the ultimate yardstick that shows us exactly how big an economy is. But there's a massive trap here that we absolutely have to avoid when calculating this number.
Let's use what I like to call the biscuit rule to see how this actually builds. Imagine a farmer sells wheat to a mill for 20 rupees. The mill grinds that wheat into flour and sells it to a biscuit company for 25 rupees. Finally, the biscuit company takes that flour, adds sugar and oil, bakes it into biscuits, and sells them to the end consumer for a total of 80 rupees.
So, here's the catch, and it's a big one. We only count the final 80 rupees for the biscuits. Why? Because that final price of 80 already includes the intermediate costs of the 20 rupee wheat and the 25 rupee flour. If we added the wheat, the flour, and the biscuits together, we'd be counting the exact same wheat 3 times over. By only counting the final goods and services, we save ourselves from the massive error of double counting.
Section 3. The Global Economic Blueprint.
With the basics of GDP measurement down, let's zoom out and look at how economies traditionally evolve over long periods of time. Historically, there's been a pretty standard playbook for how developed nations evolve. In their initial stages, the primary agricultural sector was the undisputed king for both production and employment. Then, as farming methods got better and the Industrial Revolution hit, people moved into factories, making the secondary sector dominant. Finally, over the past 100 years, a further shift happened. The tertiary service sector rose up to become the most important, both in terms of total production and where the vast majority of people actually go to work.
Section 4. India Sector Paradox. Okay, so that's the global blueprint, right? Production and employment flowing together hand in hand. But here's where the data from India between 1977 and 2017 throws us a massive curveball. On the production side of things, India successfully mirrored that global blueprint. Back in 1977, the primary sector was the largest producing sector. But jump forward 40 years to 2017, and the tertiary service sector had grown so fast that it overtook agriculture entirely. It emerged as the largest producing sector in the whole Indian economy. So far, so normal, right?
But wait, here is the crazy paradox. We know the service sector is absolutely booming in production. But look at the employment reality. The primary agricultural sector still stubbornly employs more than half of all workers in the entire country. That natural employment shift we talked about? It just never happened. So we really have to ask ourselves, why are the majority of Indian workers trapped in a sector that produces such a tiny fraction, only about 1/6, of the nation's total economic wealth? Are agricultural workers just incredibly unproductive?
Section 5. The underemployment problem.
The answer to that question isn't going to be found in big macro-level charts. The real answer is found in the micro-level realities of daily human lives. To understand this, let's take a look at Lakshmi. She is a farmer who owns a very small, 2-hectare plot of unirrigated land. She doesn't have fancy irrigation systems. She relies entirely on the rain to grow her crops.
And here's the kicker. Lakshmi's entire family of 5 works on this tiny piece of land throughout the whole year. Why? Simply because enough jobs weren't created in the secondary industrial or tertiary service sectors for them to go anywhere else. So everyone is working. No one is just sitting around idle. But in actual fact, their labor effort is being severely divided.
This situation perfectly illustrates a concept called disguised unemployment or underemployment. And guys, it is totally a hidden crisis. Unlike someone standing on the street corner with no job at all, which is clearly visible unemployment, these people look incredibly busy, but their labor is painfully underutilized. They're all being made to work far, far below their actual potential.
Think about it like this. If a local factory opened up nearby and 2 of Lakshmi's family members left the farm to go work there, what would happen to the farm? Well, the farm would still produce the exact same amount of crops. It honestly doesn't take 5 people to manage 2 hectares. But now, with 2 family members earning steady factory wages, the family's total income would shoot up significantly. And the hardest part? This isn't just Lakshmi's story. Millions of Indian farmers wake up to this exact same reality every single day.
To quote the source material directly, there are more people in agriculture than is necessary. So even if you move a few people out, production will not be affected. That is the big takeaway from this explainer today. Agriculture in India is carrying the weight of millions of unnecessary jobs, simply due to a tragic lack of alternatives. The primary sector is basically acting as a massive waiting room for a workforce that currently has nowhere else to go.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a really urgent question to think about. India has successfully modernized its production, creating a truly booming 21st century service sector. But how can a nation successfully build the bridges needed to transition millions of hidden, underemployed workers out of the fields and into those booming service and industrial sectors? Because honestly, solving this paradox isn't just about balancing a spreadsheet. It's the absolute key to unlocking the true potential of the Indian economy and transforming millions of lives.